Hello guys, welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Now, it's a big week in the world of boxing. For those of you that didn't see our live on Monday, it's Anthony Joshua, Oleksandr Usyk 2, the big rematch in Saudi Arabia this weekend, and this is our breakdown of the card. Ray, talk to me a little bit about Filip Hrgović versus Zhilei Zhang in the IBF heavyweight final eliminator.
This could be the fight that ignites Hrgovic's career for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's been given a steady stream of stable heavyweight journeymen, people that he should have been blown over, and he was blown over. He's had two unbeaten kids in his last two fights. This is Zhang, we know he's huge. He had a draw some time back, but this is on the big stage, and this will draw eyes to him. This will draw eyes to him and let people know just how good he is. If he's as good as what he's telling people, Zhang's style is tailor-made for him. He's like a statue, and Hrgović should be doing a number on this and on Zhang pretty comfortably. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not he can handle the pressure, because I think out of all the undercard fighters, the biggest pressure is going to be on him.
No, I'd agree. And I agree. I think Hrgović will win it. But I've got one question for you, Ray. Now, this is a final eliminator for the IBF. The mandatory shouldn't be next. I think it should be the WBA next. But effectively, it potentially could be the winner of Joshua Usyk. For Hrgović, this will have been a very easy run to a world title fight. Joshua's build gets criticised, and we'll get more onto that later with a different video. But is this fight, I know Zhang's quite well known. It makes sense with the DAZN platform, the Chinese market. I understand the reasons why. But is it really worthy of a final eliminator? Because I'll be honest, for me, and I'd love to get people who watch this, let us know in the comments what you think. For me, it's not.
Well, the heavyweight rankings are all over the place, to be honest. If you consider that Joe Joyce and Joe Parker are taken up, Hellenius has got Wilder. You're only really looking at someone like an Andy Ruiz, Frank Sanchez, Jared Anderson's probably a couple of fights away from being there. And the other decent heavyweights, the very best heavyweights that are coming up, like Jalilov, have even less fights than what Hrgović has got. So I think it was a case of, picking from a very, very thin source. There wasn't that much depth to think of. So, yeah, it is what it is. He can only beat who's in front of him. I'm not impressed by his resume, if I'm going to be perfectly honest for you.
On the same.
I do agree, in comparison to other heavyweights, there isn't much out there. But, if you could chuck another name in there, would have been Hughie Fury as well. Hughie Fury's been in with some top kids. You've got the likes of people like the other gatekeepers like Povetkin and stuff retired now. Chizora's not going to come down to that level. Will Dillian White get up for it? I'm not too sure. So it doesn't really leave him with a lot of options, really. But I'm hoping he wins this one, and because you could argue his next one would be for a world title, whether we agree with it or not. That's when we'll start getting the names attached to him, and that's when we'll start to see really how good it is. Yeah. This will give us a gauge. This will give us a measuring gauge of just how good his potential is.
No, I definitely agree with that. And in fairness to Hrgović, I would defend him slightly in the fact that obviously the IBF rankings, when this started getting negotiated for, I want to say 6-7 months ago, because obviously with the delay with Hrgovic's father passing, obviously it was ordered Tony Yoka, which obviously has since gone on to lose to Martin Bacoli, so we understand why that one. Joseph Parker was also in negotiations for the fight and chose to go a different route, as we all now know how that's unfolded. So, in fairness to Hrgović, he has tried to fight better fighters, but I don't know. I just worry that we talked about it a few weeks ago in relation to Dubois, in relation to Joe Joyce, about bad prep for a world title fight, and Anthony Yard as well. And I just worry that the same is going to happen here to Hrgović. But we'll move on. It will still be a good fight and definitely one to look out for. Let's just talk a little bit about the WBC light heavyweight final eliminator between Callum Smith and Matthew Borderleek. Ray, how do you see that one going?
I'm looking forward for another Callum Smith stoppage. I believe this French kid is tough. His record, let's be honest, there's no one on there of note. But, considering I think he got stopped last time in his defeat back in 2017. But
Unbeaten since.
yeah, he has. He's been unbeaten since. But then again, you've got to have an asterisk against some of those opponents. Callum Smith has looked strong since he stepped up the 12 stone 7. He's looked strong. For me, that's his weight. And he spent a little bit too long at the middle. But you can understand why. The goal was there. And he had the golden fight to go with that. It didn't go his way. But I think at this weight, he's a different animal. He's a different animal there. I think his power that he showed earlier on in his career is there for the full 12 rounds. You know, it's not just he needs to get people out of there because he's struggling to go down the stretch. That power's there all day long, and Callum can hit with both hands. That jab will be prominent. He'll have the juice in his legs to move around. I think he's going to cause this kid a lot of problems. I'm really looking forward to an explosive Callum Smith performance.
Now, and again, I'm the same. I was actually going to say in the build-up to this, we keep a little bit of a tally, don't we, of who's ahead in predictions, and we normally only really do it for main events. And I was going to say let's do it for the card, but I think, you know, I agree with you, Hrgovic will win. I agree with you, Callum Smith will going to win. So I'm not going to be able to extend my lead because for those that don't know, I am beating Ray this year, so it's worth mentioning for me.
You've never mentioned it, like.
I don't like to go on about it, mate. But yeah, if you get me onto Frank Warren, I can go on about my other.
But it's all
well. Yeah, here we go. You've mentioned it.
That's it.
It's an involuntary twitch at this stage. In relation to Callum Smith, now, in fairness, he's at the new weight. He fought 2 rounds on the Usyk Joshua 1 card at Spurs last year. I'm hoping he gets rounds now because he's not had rounds since Canelo in what was December 2020. Yeah. So I think he's going to come through strong and I want to see a big performance. But I also think you want to see him do at least 6 or 7 rounds, don't you, Hero?
I think the problem with Callum Smith is he seems to be on the very biggest cards, and he seems to be fighting whenever Joshua's fighting. So the problem that you'll have is if he's matched like he has been for his last 2 fights, including this fight, he's probably not going to get the rounds because he's going to be stopping these kids, and that means he's probably going to be fighting like once a year whenever Joshua fights. But I've got a feeling that once he progresses and he gets that, and he gets into position to be fighting for a world title, we'll probably see him more active. But in a minute, he seems to be fighting on the Joshua cards, which is, which hasn't helped with his inactivity he was having before the Canelo fight. At this stage of his career, he really needs to be a bit more active. But for some reason, that's what Eddie has him doing. I like to see him step away from that and be his own guy and fight more often because that would help him. I think he needs his style of fighting. He needs to stay sharp, stay busy.
No, I'd agree, and I think we will see him more active as well because if he wins this, which is obviously the final eliminator, he's in line for Beterbiev, who, we're in agreement on this channel that Beterbiev's the man at 175.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
That becomes a headline act fight. That's not even on an Anthony Joshua card, which, let's be fair, we'll get onto the main event, but the whole Anthony Joshua perspective changes if he loses on Saturday, to be fair, because he's no longer in the, that absolute elite level. Yeah. So I do think we'll see a more active Callum Smith. Eddie Hearn has talked about his activity and Anthony Joshua's activity, saying they need to be sort of minimum twice a year. Do you think Callum Smith can do it? Can he beat Beterbiev? I've always said he can. I really believe that. I think the inactivity is the question, and I agree with you. I think he'll stop Borderlick. But he needs to do rounds because I wouldn't want to be going into a Beterbiev fight. Same as we've just said with a few other fighters, I would not want to be fighting Artur Beterbiev with what would be potentially 5 or 6 rounds boxed in 2 years.
Yeah, and the thing is, Artur Beterbiev doesn't look like a 37-year-old fighter. He doesn't look as though he's slowing down. And he in his last fight against Joe Smith Jr., he showed that there's a lot more to his game than someone who just plods forward and punches you with hammers in both fists. He's really intelligent in applying his pressure. And if Callum isn't careful, he could get himself caught earlier onto the body, slow down, and then get broken down if he counters his jab. It'd be like chopping down a tall tree for Beterbiev. It would only be a matter of time. At this moment in time, Callum's only had the one fight at 175. You know, we're still on, you know, a couple of days out for the fight. Could my opinion change after Saturday night? Maybe, maybe not, because the opponent isn't exactly a top kid at 175. Immediately after this fight, I would still say it was too early for me to give an opinion to support Callum Smith beating Beterbiev. Callum Smith's got all the talent in the world. I really rate him highly, but I just think Beterbiev's just on a different level. Beterbiev and Bivol are just on a different skill and power level to Callum Smith. But that's no disgrace, though. I'll be very confident of putting Callum Smith in with any of the other boys at 175 and expecting them to come out the winner.
No, I can definitely see that school of thought, in fairness. So I'm not going to take it to task. Hopefully, that'll be a debate that we're having sooner rather than later, as long as Callum Smith comes through safely on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's also worth mentioning quickly, we've got Ramla Ali making a bit of history. She'll be the first female fighter to fight in Saudi Arabia. And I think, you know, it's crazy to think in 2022 we're still talking about these sort of barriers being broken. But for me, the important thing is that they are being broken. So hats off to her. Hopefully she'll come through. She should do anyway with the opponent.
Yeah, she should.
We've also got, and it's a great one to talk about, Ben Whittaker. Obviously, with Sky. The fight is on Sky Box Office, but obviously we know the DAZN situation with that. But he's getting his opportunity to fight on a massive, massive card. It'll be earlier in the show. Eddie Hearn has sort of said it'll be on a before the bell type stream somewhere beforehand. But that's a big opportunity for Ben, isn't it, Ray?
Yeah, it is. I'm assuming it's all connected to this 258 management deal he's got with Joshua's company. Excuse me. I think it's he probably would have wanted to get onto the bit where it starts, as I call it. The cut-off is for the people who want to watch it for free, and those who have to pay for it clicks in. He probably would have wanted to be on that bit, but never mind. There's eyes on him.
Activity as well.
There's eyes on him. Yeah, it keeps him busy. It gives him that experience of being on a big show. He seems to love the limelight. I don't think he'll phase him one bit. So it can only be good for him. It can only be good to get this. It's a weird, because it's sort of a big fight because of what's at stake, but it isn't going to be a big fight in terms of the arena filled with fanatics singing the songs, throwing beer or whatever it is as they do at fights. You know, I can see it being a lot more subdued, pretty much like it was for Ruiz. Joshua. But I think it's going to be an interesting experience. He's experienced a lot as an amateur. But this young man's got a lot of confidence. He's not as shy, is he? Something in the water over there where you guys live. So
we're a charismatic bunch, mate.
Yeah. I think he'll do him the world of good. I think he'll really, really soak it up.
No, good. Now, we're going to get on to the main event. And for those that didn't see our live the other night, me and Ray, we differ on opinions now. Don't worry. For those that are Anthony... Not for the first time, but I was going to say, don't worry. For the Anthony Joshua fans out there, I'm right more than I'm wrong on this channel. And I am backing Anthony Joshua for the win. I'm going to die on this hill. So, I mean, we'll go into it a little bit. For me, I've said it from day one. Anthony Joshua's got to use his size, be aggressive, get on the inside and attack the body. We've seen Usyk doesn't like that. And I thoroughly believe with the new trainer in Robert Garcia, who's known for training aggressive style of fight for fighters, I thoroughly believe he can do that. The only asterisk that I will accept, Joshua's looked mentally frail at times since the Ruiz 1 loss. The Ruiz 2 loss, he did just do what he had to do. But the Pulev fight is what's giving me confidence, because everyone called for him to be more aggressive, and he was, but it was much more harnessed aggression,
Educated aggression.
Yeah, it was educated. He made sure he'd softened Pulev up before he went in there and potentially left himself open to getting caught himself.
Yeah.
So I think that, with the addition of the aggression Robert Garcia has hopefully instilled in him, that is where I'm backing an Anthony Joshua win between rounds 7 and 10. That's what I'm saying. I'll hand it over to you, Ray. Let's just waste everyone's time for a couple of minutes.
You see what I was talking about when I was saying about the Black Country optimism in the water. The confidence that alludes from it. I need some of that, honestly. We need to get a link from all the water from the Black Country, fetch it up to the northeast. We could do with it.
You're welcome anytime, mate.
We could do with it. Yeah, that is the way to beat Usyk. I think it's a case of not. You see, when Joshua kept it long, he also gave Usyk room to do his work by shortening up the feet, inching forward all the time, using his jab to push him back to the ropes and letting his hands go, and then hurting him to the body, touching him to the body. Eventually, he'll crumble, but that's easier said than done. I think Usyk's going to be expecting that. Usyk's expecting Joshua to come forward. And as Joshua comes forward, and if he doesn't have success, that frailty is going to be tested. This is about being psychologically strong in this fight. If Joshua isn't having success in the early rounds and he knows he's down, Joshua's the type of person that always asks for people's opinion. If he looks at people's faces and they're frowning and they're shaking their heads and they're worried, Joshua's confidence is going to diminish, and Usyk's going to capitalize on that. I also worry as well. I know that he's getting leaner, which I think is a positive, because he'll be leaner and hopefully be fitter. He'll not be as muscle bound, he'll not be as robotic and stiff. It's whether or not, though, it's how he responds to the movement of Usyk, that upper body movement, because sometimes Joshua, we know if he's got a static target in front of him, he can't miss. And that back right hand is powerful. He can set it up quite well. He gets, people underestimate his ability to set up his backhand, and particularly his best up, his right uppercut. I think he's arguably got, him and Fury got the best uppercuts at heavyweight, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's going to be the upper body movement and the lateral movement of Usyk he needs to be careful for, because that's going to trouble him, particularly if the fight goes down the stretch and the big man starts to tire.
There we go. So that's what we think. But for those of you that didn't watch our live, get involved in the comment section. Give us your predictions. And Ray, last chance. You're sticking with Usyk.
I'm sticking with Usyk. I'm going to go for Usyk, and I'm going to go for Usyk by stoppage, TKO.
Oh, hang on, mate. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to really make it interesting and pick a round?
I'm going to go for round 8.
That's honestly hurt, to be honest. That's upset me.
Round 8. Are you all right, man? You look as though you're going to fall down.
Mate, I used to think a lot of you. Now I'm...
Let's down Steph, man. Let's...
Well, if that's Ray's, I'm sticking with Anthony Joshua, knockout. I like Usyk. He's a great boxer, but he's going out on his back. And I'm also going to say round 8 then. So round 8, on your toes. Let's have it. Guys, thanks for tuning in if you're still with us to this point. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've really got to start doing that at the start of the video. But we've got lots more content coming this week. Join us.